how the entire regulatory structure also function is not very efficient. We have so much of technology and data and tools available that if there is an intent, we can start seeing air pollution reduction maybe within a week. Not that radical, but we can see some improvements if we take actions backed by data with the right.
Why do you feel there isn't an intent? Like, why do you feel that, we talk about air pollution every year, right? And every year we all bemoan ki sardi aa gayi hai, pollution aega, but like we all feel a bit helpless, right? I mean, like nothing's really changing. Every year I see the same things. So where's the challenge?
No, we see the same thing, and yes, we all feel the helplessness of nothing much changing on air pollution. But there have been certain good things as well. Like for example, Bharat 6 introduction, yeah, for both fuel standard as well as the technology has definitely reduced emissions coming from the transportation sector. Emissions per kilometer vehicle per vehicle traveled. But the sheer number of vehicles has increased, the petrol and diesel consumption is increasing, and that has negated the gains which we could have had to base. So, and similarly, there are lots of industries which have been shifted to pipe natural gas in Delhi HCR. But there is also this is also a fact that a lot of new industries have come up in this area. You'll be surprised that Delhi is so much talked about every year, nationally, internationally, about air pollution and all those things. There's a new coal-based power plant coming just 70-kilometer aerial distance from Delhi at Khurja that will be operational in a year or two, which will be emitting so much of air pollution. And whenever the wind will come from UP side, in the winter it comes from the Punjab and Haryana side, and stove burning pollution comes to Delhi. But there are other times of the year when the wind comes from UP side. Now that will bring more pollution from that one big source. So what's happening is, I think the actions towards between 2000 and 2003 of phasing out diesel buses is a typical example of what's going wrong with our regulation of pollution. We focus at individual steps in isolation. We don't look at the holistic picture. We talk about and we think that this one sector, one source of pollution is the major source and don't pay attention to the others. We transformed we moved out the diesel buses, brought CNG buses, pollution levels reduced, but we couldn't provide better public transportation infrastructure to Delhi, X to the increasing population of Delhi, which resulted into lesser number of buses being available and more people needed uh, to travel. Metro came, and if metro would not have been there, Delhi would have been a chaotic city. It would have been inhabitable. But what also happened was because there was no last mile connectivity, there was no better public transportation system. Everybody, whoever could buy a bike, bought a bike. Whoever could afford buying a car, bought a car. And there was no policy in place. National Urban Transport Policy came out in 2006, which said that the road space utilization should be segregated, and the first right to the road space should be to people who walk, pedestrian, then to the cyclist, then to the public transportation, buses, etc. And then whatever remains, part of that should be for the private vehicles.
Yeah, you don't see that on the roads. We don't see that on the roads at all.
So there have been some thinking around it, but when it comes to actual implementation, we haven't been able to implement holistic, comprehensive, and systematic solutions across sectors and across geographies. Last 6-7 years is another typical example. Initially, the OD1 came in, a lot of emphasis and a lot of media talk about that individual car owners are the major problem behind air pollution in Delhi and everything, which is true that the transport sector is still the biggest contribution to Delhi pollution. But all the discussions were just centered around that, and that resulted into a lot of experiments on the transport
Yeah. I
sector.
mean, or even now we don't see it anymore. It's not, we don't see, we used anymore.
We don't use it anymore. And what happened was when it was talked about, it was only odd even which was talked about. Okay, what happened behind that was that other sources of pollution, industries, power plants, the systemic failure of public transportation and all those things, they kept hiding behind it. And nobody spoke about these things, this never infiltrated into the public narrative, public discussions, and that is the reason that big industries, coal-based power plants, and the systemic administrative failure of not providing better public transportation.
So you think, or even like public personal transport and all, they become kind of scapegoats.
They no, they are a right. They are a big source. They should be controlled, but I would not say they became the scapegoat. They got the right attention. But what happened is the other bigger institutional polluters, both sectors as well as administrative systems, they were hiding behind the
Yeah. There's not enough attention being paid to them.
two other aspects. Then later on, when there was a little discussion which started happening around other sources, then we needed a new sector behind which other these sectors could hide, and that's why you see last 4 or 5 years you see stubble burning being talked.
Yeah, that's been the main narrative of the last few years, stubble burning.
Now you talk to a person in Delhi, they'll say, why is there pollution in Delhi? They'll say because of stubble burning. But even though it happens only for 2 to 3 weeks and peaks for around 1 week, and you talk to anybody in rural Haryana or Punjab, why is there pollution in Delhi? They'll say it's because of reduced car use.
Yeah.
This is
So it's kind of a blame game. Yeah.
blame game there. And behind all that, the industries and the industries are growing, and they are not using the efficient state-of-the-art pollution control technology. They are not using the clean source of energy, and thermal power plants is a typical example. In 2015, there was a notification which came out which said all the power plants have to regulate the emissions by 2017, though it was very ambitious. Could not have been possible, but it was certainly doable in about 5 years. So if the notification came out in 2015, we could have easily retrofitted all the power plants in the country by 2020 max. But it's been what, about 9 years now, and only less than 10% of the power plants has retrofitted to a technology which will reduce pollution levels. And there have been at least 3 to 4 deadlines
Yeah.
which have been given to them. And whenever they approach the deadline, whenever they become non-compliant with the norms, a new deadline is given rather.
So there's no enforcement. There's no proper enforcement.
And all this inaction by the industries, like thermal power plants is an example, and at least people talk about it, people know about it. I can't imagine what's happening in other industrial sectors which are not even talked about by the researchers, by the policymakers. What I'm trying to say is that though controlling transport sector pollution and even stubble burning is important, is needed, what has been happening is that other bigger sources of pollution as well as systemic failures have been hiding behind this, and that shouldn't really happen. And if that is done away with, and if there is the other issues why air pollution doesn't become a big issue is because in India I mentioned it, if we were talking about it, and I mentioned it on another interview as well, that the voters are not voting based on what their level seats, sadly, because we have other more visible problems.
It's like a hierarchy of needs, right? I mean, people, and also, air pollution is there. The effects aren't immediate. I think that's another issue. Like if it was immediately killing you, कि आप सांस ले रहे हो और एक हफ्ते बाद अब
During COVID, you were breathing and you were dying.
exactly.
The same thing happens with air pollution, but it takes
It takes so much longer. So people, I think there is this dissidence that we have as people. Even with the larger issue of climate change, I think people know it's coming, but वो कह रहे हैं यार जब आएगा तब देखेंगे.
and also feel that they can't do anything. These are things which the governments can control, because the government at the end of the day is the guardian of air and
Absolutely.
and they should do more so that individuals get motivated to play a role in it. And that is why I feel the higher responsibility lies with the government of creating such atmosphere and implementing such solutions that individuals start getting motivated and start taking personal steps. Like as an individual, even if I want to reduce my carbon footprint of electricity usage, I don't have an option apart from installing rooftop solar with Delhi in a flat system is nearly impossible. I still have to depend on the grid electricity, which 75% of it comes from coal. And who can change that? I can't change that. That's the government who have to change.
Even with EVs, I mean, your electricity is still coming from coal plants, right?
They coming from coal, and a lot of people say that EV is the solution to air pollution and climate change and everything. But if the transportation, the private usage of cars, diesel cars and petrol cars shift to the electric cars, that's not going to help. The roads will still be blocked. There will be congestion. There will be more flyovers created. There will be more roads created. The electricity will still come from coal. It will just shift pollution from within the city to some other
Part also.
and the problems will still stay in the city. So the solution would be in having more RE powered EV transportation as well as non-motorized transport of, if I have to walk, if I have to travel for a distance of 2 kilometers, do I have good walking footpaths? Can I even cycle? I love cycling. I can't cycle in Delhi. I used to live in Goa, and now I spend some time in Dehradun and I cycle there. But in Delhi, I can't even think of taking.
I would never risk it personally in Delhi. Yeah.
Isn't cycling was separate?
Yeah, exactly. I'm more on the someone might hit me with a car.
Footpaths.
So you see cars going on footpaths and bikes.
So it's the role which people can definitely play is while taking some actions at individual level of segregating waste, using public transportation, walking and cycling, if they have good public infrastructure, is asking the question to the policymakers and asking them, hey, you said that you'll reduce pollution of 40% in Delhi compared to 2017. We are still at the same level. Why haven't we been able to reduce it? Have we reduced the rate of growth of private vehicle registration? Have we reduced the rate of growth of petrol consumptions? Have we reduced the rate of growth of coal consumption in the larger area? Nobody, like people's or at least the researchers, think tanks who ask these kind of questions, and that will enhance a bit of transparency in what actions have been taken and also a bit of accountability the part of
And with Delhi elections coming up, I think it's a perfect time to start asking these questions.
and Delhi, Delhi is the media hub. Delhi is the political hub. Delhi is the epicenter of everything. And if Delhi can't solve this problem, I sometimes get really confused about, if Delhi hasn't been able to reduce pollution, how are these other cities reducing pollution?